they connect to God through mystery and celebration. Those are the two main words to remember when considering the enthusiast pathway, is that while others might be confused by the mystery of Christianity or the mystery of God himself, the enthusiast thrives on that. The enthusiast loves the mystery of it or is fed by it, and their connection to God is deepened in the mystery of God and the mystery of life itself, or Christianity, if you will. The author of the book likened the enthusiasts to downhill skiers. In fact, he opens up this chapter talking about downhill skiers, because with downhill skiing, you're obviously at the top of the mountain and you have your skis on, and the main thing you have to remember is just don't hit anything. And so for the downhill skier, you get in your crouch position, you put your poles under your arms, you point your skis downward, and you're just going. And the thing is just keep going, don't hit nothing. And so that's how enthusiasts are, is just let's go. Let's just do it. The author says he wanted to entitle this chapter "Loving God with Gusto," because that's how enthusiast is. It's like, let's just do it. The contemplative probably wants to think about it a lot. The intellectual wants to try to figure it out. The ascetic needs to go and pray about it. The naturalist probably has to go out and look in nature and get inspiration. But the enthusiast is like, did God say it? Then let's go do it. And so that's how, that's basically overall what the enthusiast mentality is, their temperament is. I'm in this steep place, this cliff, but I'm be okay, let's go do it. Kind of reminded me of when the children of Israel had sent in their spies into the promised land, and 10 of them came back and said, it's too big, there's too much, we can't go, there's too many things. But Caleb was the one that says, no, God said we can do it, let's go do it. And so Caleb was probably surrounded by some intellectuals and some contemplatives and some ascetics and some traditionalists and all these other people around who wanted to turn back or do something different. But for the enthusiasts, it's full steam ahead. The enthusiasts really live out the theme that I've heard all my life, is let go and let God. The enthusiast is the one that is like, yes, let's let go, let's let God, let's just go and do this thing, and God's gonna fix it, and he's gonna take care of us, and we're gonna be okay. So that's overall for the enthusiasts. They love the mystery of God. They love that mysterious part of God. They don't shy away from it. They're not intimidated by it. It doesn't cause fear in them at all. That mysterious part of God is what excites them and fuels them. And it's just wanting to move into God, even though it's mysterious, even though I don't understand everything. The enthusiast is probably the one who likes to put things together without reading the instructions. The enthusiast is probably the one that, wants to just jump in. Some people want to take a class and learn how to do things. The enthusiast is probably, no, I'll just learn as I go. It's that type of mentality. And especially when it comes to God, it's just that, let's just do it. In the material there, I love it says, in a cynical and depressed world, enthusiasts point toward faith, mystery, and expectancy. When the situation seems impossible, enthusiasts say, now God's really ready to move. So really going to move. And so they probably get on the nerves of everybody else, because while everybody else is planning and plotting and scheming and trying to figure things out, enthusiasts is like, this is an opportunity for God to move, and he's going to move, and let's just keep moving forward. The enthusiast is the one that keeps everybody, usually fuels everybody else's faith. Because when we get tested by things and our faith takes hits, and there's mystery, and we don't see things happening the way we want to, and so our expectancy level is low. It's usually the enthusiast that is able to fuel everybody else's faith. And no, this is not a problem. This is an opportunity. You're going through issues. think about how God is going to come through and he's really going to bless. So that they're really probably a little annoying to everyone else. It depends on the person, but they're the ones that does not have a problem moving forward. They really believe in letting go and letting God do whatever he wants to do because they know that God's going to come through in a certain situation. So they really embrace a celebratory type of worship, like more than the other pathways. Not to say that the other pathways don't have a celebratory form, and we all have some form. Remember, we each have each of these pathways. We each have a little bit of it in us. So I'm not saying that the ascetic or the people who usually like to be by themselves don't like to celebrate. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that this for the enthusiasts, that they show that or they run to that, connect to that deeper and probably on a more regular basis than the other pathways. But they're into the mystery and celebration of God. They love to celebrate. They love to do those things that are that would be extravagant, because that's how they celebrate God. That's how they see God. That's how they connect to him. Even in the mystery of them or the things they don't understand. So they're fearless, and that translates into their faith and how they connect to God and their fearlessness. Okay? Any comments or questions so far? So this is, I'm sharing, this was one of the quotes from the book. The second quote down here, this is probably the enthusiast mindset. We worship and serve a supernatural God who manifests himself to us in supernatural ways. In this sense, every Christian will bear some marks of an enthusiast. So even if this is not high on your list, there is some aspects of the enthusiast pathway that you find in your connection and relationship with God as well. But enthusiasts by temperament, by how they're designed, are particularly fed by such experience. So when there's mystery about God, about his omnipotence, that he knows omnipotence, that he's all powerful. Now that may frighten some people. For the enthusiast, that fuels their relationship with God, knowing that he's everywhere at the same time, knowing that he does things that we can't do, knowing that there's things about God that we may never fully understand. And that doesn't stop the enthusiast, it actually fuels their relationship with God. They understand there's certain things about God in Christianity that we simply can't fully understand. And for some people, that might hold them back and hinder them in their relationship with God, because they probably feel like they need to know more, or they need to know as much as they possibly can. Some of them trying to know everything about God. But for the enthusiasts, that doesn't stop them. In fact, it fuels them. The fact that they can't fully understand things, they dive into that mysterious part, and it's exciting to them to discover what they can discover about God. There's an expectancy with enthusiasts. They expect God to come through. They expect things, even in the mysterious things. And they don't even have to see what they're expecting. There's just an expectancy. And they're fed by that expectancy, and they're fed by that mystery. They're fed by the just going with God and just seeing where it takes us, just like the downhill skier. You got to move. Well, you got to stick and move, and you got to shift, and you got to do. And for the enthusiasts, they love that. That's what fuels them. I think if life was just kind of straight along, and enthusiasts would get bored and try to find other ways to excite them, or to ignite their passion and their relationship with God. But and we know that in this relationship with God, sometimes it is smooth, but a lot of times it's not. But for the enthusiast, it's those times it's not that really feeds their relationship and their connection to God, and they're able to flow a whole lot easier in the unknown. where other temperaments might have issues and problems. One of the things, one of the mysterious things that, or the areas of mystery that the author talked about was dreams. Dreams, a lot of times, that's why a lot of times the dreams are weird. They don't make sense, at least not initially. I've told Rakita about a dream I had not too long ago, and usually I don't remember dreams that I have, but I did, and I was telling her about it, and I wrote it down, and I still have the paper, and piece by piece, I'm learning what each parts of what that dream is actually meaning. And so the author's point was, for the enthusiast, that's how God usually speaks to you, is in those dreams and with those mysterious things, those elements that don't make sense. There was a polka dotted whale in my dream. I have no idea what a polka dotted whale symbolizes, but that's mysterious, and that's how God will speak to us. Sometimes, and his point was that when we're asleep and our spirits are quiet, then we can actually receive and hear from God, because we're so busy doing so many other things when we're awake. But the mysterious, one of the mysteries of God is like in Psalm 121 that says that he who keeps you never slumbers. And he who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. So while we're sleeping, God's still awake. And that's a mystery for other people, or a mystery for everybody. But for the enthusiast, that's how it's in the mystery of that, in that sacred place that they really connect to God. And they usually have more vivid dreams, more frequent dreams. So that's something that's powerful. So if you're dreaming a lot, that's probably, enthusiast is probably part of your temperament. Comments, questions? I know I'm going a little fast because we're a little bit behind time because of all the stuff, but that's okay. I still want to make time for comments. Go ahead, Pastor.
So of course, I love this this teaching. For those of you that don't know, enthusiast is one of my top pathways, number 2, as a matter of fact, and it's something that I definitely relate to. One of the things that I want to encourage everybody, if you haven't started seeing the connection already, is that there is I believe, a connection between the sacred pathways and the gifts of the Spirit. And so I'm curious if you guys see the connection of the enthusiast to the gifts of the Spirit, and which ones those would be. And I don't want to take away from the class, but I just want you guys to be thinking about that, because this is not separate. This is all a part of helping us to understand who we are, and how we connect to Him is going to point also to how He uses us for His glory. So this is definitely good. I can relate to everything that you're saying about the enthusiast.
Big surprise there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Why are you talking about me this early in the morning? That's all I want to know.
It's all in love, prophetess.
It's amazing. As Pastor just said, I've been listening, but this one excited me because I didn't realize that is my number 1, is enthusiast, and everything you're saying fits. I'm like, oh, so that's why I'm so weird.
Unique, not weird.
I love the mysteries of God. Just when He does something, says something, I'm like, dang, okay, and it makes me want to go find out more. So as Pastor said, I've been paying attention to these lessons, and this one really excited me because I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. That's so me. If y'all know me, you know that's me, right?
Yes, absolutely. Not a surprise.
I love your polka dotted whale. That is something God would do. He'll just throw a monkey wrench into a polka dotted whale and make you go hunt down that polka dotted whale. Yeah, I know. Because you know that will make you search Him out.
Absolutely.
I dream all the time, every day, all day. If I go to sleep, I'm dreaming. Just rest assured, I got something weird coming up. That was my, and I'm going back on mute now.
Well, thank you for that. Because with the dreams, and that kind of goes along with the first quote, because, and Pastor kind of touched on a little bit, was that when we're dealing with the supernatural and the mysterious and all these things, we have to be careful that it's still biblically sound. We have to make sure that there's still teaching from the church on these types of things. That's why I'm glad that we're teaching on the spiritual gifts and things. And then the author was talked about, because when you get into the supernatural, that can open the door for error and heresy and fear. And just to be honest, mystery and supernatural things can cause fear. So his suggestion was, and he says that in the first quote there, that because of that, this is precisely why the church must teach about legitimate and biblically ordained experiences of the supernatural. If the Christian church doesn't sanctify and oversee these practices taught and used by Christ and the apostles, then we are tempting people to experience these types of things outside the church, where heresy is virtually certain. So if we don't teach about the supernatural, if we don't teach about the mysterious part of God, if we don't teach about the spiritual gifts, if we don't teach about those types of spiritual, supernatural type of issues, and keep it grounded in biblically sound teaching, then that opens the way for heresy, which is fallacy and error, and misuse of it, and abusing other people in the misuse of it because of wrong teaching. And now people are held in bondage by teaching that instead of helping them to develop a deeper relationship with God, it causes roadblocks and causes stumbling blocks and problems in their relationship with God and in their Christian development. So it's got to be grounded in teaching, and the enthusiasts, like every other of the pathways, have to be tempered by being in the church. And it reminded me when Pastor Teray had a dream, and then he couldn't decipher the dream, but he asked Prophetess Yasmin shared the dream with her, and then she was able to help him with that. And that's how the church is supposed to work. So we have this mysterious supernatural God, and he deals with us on this level, and there's things we don't understand, but we have our the church, we have the other members of the body of Christ, we have experiences from the past, and so we have other avenues as well as the Bible itself to help us to understand it, to interpret it, and then to stay biblically sound and scripturally grounded in it, so that it doesn't veer off into areas that leads to error and fallacy. Yes, Denise, go ahead.
To your point, I had an experience once, and to this day, it frightens me. I walked into a service that somebody had invited me to, and the lights were dimmed and people were doing the craziest things all over the place, all over the room. And I didn't know how they got there. I didn't understand what was happening. And so it did produce fear in me of that type of expression of, I want to say God, you know, they seem pretty solid in doctrine, but I had never seen anything like that before.
Yes, and we've probably all had some similar experiences walking in the churches, and there's worship that goes beyond what we're used to or what we were brought up in. And so it would be wise for the church to help the people to understand those experiences, especially those who aren't used to it. It might be God, it might not be, but it's up to the church. There's got to be a certain level of integrity within the church that they will address those issues, so that people don't walk away in fear, and they don't hold on to that fear for years later, years in their life, and it hinders their relationship with God. So the church should address that and take away that fear, so that people can understand it and possibly tap into something that they weren't used to or didn't even think about.
Yes. Pastor, I do agree. One of the things Apostle said on a comment earlier, just now, is that when it comes to dreams and interpreting dreams, a lot of times God will give you a dream and have somebody else interpret it for you just to keep you tempered. As you said, you know, the craziness needs to be tempered, for lack of a better word. It needs to be tempered with sound doctrine and verified. But to attest to fear, it is very important, as you said, that we.
Good morning, woman of God.
I'm sorry, let me move. We got two services going on. I grew up in fear. And the reason why I was in fear is because nobody taught me. I didn't understand what was happening. There was just a lot as a child that I was seeing and hearing, even visibly seeing. So without any, I came up in I thought it was a good church, but there wasn't teaching on the supernatural, on the gifts of the Spirit and all these things, so that I would have not been in fear. So fear to the point where I had to be delivered from fear. They had to have me in a service when I got good and saved to have me be delivered from the spirit of fear. It got a hold of me, and I realized it was because of lack of knowledge, not understanding, not knowing what was happening. And then, as you say, you know, sometimes other things will come in to fill that. Well, you know, I grew up in the island that do all that little hoodoo stuff. So I was even more afraid. That could have taken hold more than God could have taken hold, but God had a plan. So he saved me from that.
Praise God. Amen. Anybody else comments or questions? Okay, so the pitfalls, seeking experiences for experience's sake. So you have to be careful of that, that you're seeking God in the experiences, and that you experience God in these supernatural, mysterious experiences, and not just seeking the experiences for the experience's sake. And that's kind of a running theme throughout all the pathways, that you don't want the pathway itself to become God. The pathway is a path to God. So you can't, there has to be careful that that doesn't become your idol, whatever that pathway may be. For the enthusiast, it's these supernatural, wonderful experiences. And they are supernatural, they are wonderful, nothing wrong with them, but that's not the reason to seek them for the experience sake, or the high that you get from the experience sake. But the objective is to seek God and connect to him. The other pitfall is being independent. And we talked about that, being connected to the body of Christ. So there can be, or your experiences can be tempered. So there can be interpretation, explanation, and not being an island unto yourself. Equating good feelings with good worship. Just because you feel good doesn't mean the worship was good. Just because it sounds good doesn't mean the worship was good, because feelings come and go. I love it said in the handout, enthusiasts shouldn't apologize for enjoying their feelings, but they should avoid becoming dependent upon them. So praise isn't about how I feel. Worship isn't about how I feel. It's about God. You know, that has to remain the focus. I praise God, not because someone hit the right note on the keyboard. Not because the preacher started hooping. You know, it's not what that's about. You know, it's about God himself, and that has to be the focus. There's suggestions for the road. We see in the suggestions that they had in the paperwork. My wife's working over here, so that's okay. Don't worry about that. But you have the handout there. The suggestions working with kids, because the kids have, and I know Sue Phil was shaking their head. That's not my calling. that's not me. So I get that. So maybe it's not for everybody, but for the enthusiast who's trying to get their mentality or that thinking back, then spending time with kids is the way to capture recapture, the author says, the joy and wonder of their faith, because that's how kids think. You know, they're fearless a lot of times. I remember my kids growing up loved to just climb up on stuff and jump off of it. And it was like, what is wrong with you that you just want to do that? So some kids are just like that. And so again, that's how the enthusiast connects to God, is that let's go type of fearless type of walk. And so spending time with kids can sometimes help with that. You should never accept a dream that clashes with the revelation of Scripture. We talked about that. The author really stresses doing things in the creative sense. Creative people are usually the ones who have this temperament of being enthusiasts, is that they love creating things. And so the author suggests connecting with God to figure out how to create something, whatever that may be, whatever thing it is, whether it's a meal or a play or a structure or a building or whatever. But it's the idea of creating things, because then that's how you're connecting or coming alongside with God, who's the ultimate creator. And there's stories of his creation all throughout the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. It's him creating what wasn't always there. And that's part of what the enthusiasts, why they're so excited about the mystery. It's about there's something that isn't there, but I'm headlong into creating it and making it come to be what wasn't there before. And they really expect God to come through with a level of faith that probably all of the other temperaments can draw from at particular times. Believe God or step out in faith. Again, the skier, my skis are up, they're pointed downhill, let's just go for it. You know, we'll adjust as necessary, you know, to avoid what we need to avoid, but we're just gonna go for it. And that's stepping out on faith, or as Pastor's been telling us, allowing ourselves to be stretched. And that's how we nurture that enthusiast side of us, even if that's not our primary temperament. That's still something that we should be doing, because we do have each aspect of these temperaments, even though they may not be primary. So that's the overview for the enthusiast. Any comments or questions?
I just wanted to add a pitfall, and it may be a pitfall for all of them. So enthusiast was number one on mine also. I was like 1 point off from a perfect score. And it was only because it was the question, like, would you like to read a book about being an enthusiast? And I said, sometimes, maybe. Mm-hmm. So, but a pitfall that I've dealt with a lot of times is being patient with other people, that because they're not as excited or gun-ho, like, let's get this done. I have to be very prayerful that I don't get impatient with them or get angry with them or frustrated with them because they're not moving as fast as I want them to. And so that is a big pitfall, I believe, for the enthusiast.
Yeah, that's a good one. Not listed, but certainly, like, he doesn't have the exhausted list. So that's a good one that wasn't listed. Yeah, patience with that. And that seems, I can see that spreading over the other temperaments as well, becoming impatient with other people because they don't see things like you see. Bertita and I are out in nature. I'm all into nature, and she wants to sit in the car. And I'm mad at her because, why aren't you out in nature with me? Why can't you see what I see? Can't you hear what I hear? You know, and, you know, so we do have to be careful, and that's part of the overall theme of this study, is learning each one of the temperaments, and then learning to be patient, like you said, with other people who don't have your temperament. So if they don't connect to God the way you do, or they're not diving into the things that you're diving into, I'm like, let's go pray for 2 hours. My Keita's like, because that's just not her temperament. So I have to be aware of that. She's into lighting candles and things because she's a sensate. You know, she loves those Yeah. Oh, okay. But she loves those things, you know, for the senses, and me not so much. So it's like we have to learn that with each other. Amen. So that's the enthusiast. I think next week is contemplative. So for those on the recording, thanks for showing for being here. Join us next week for the contemplative, loving God through adoration, and we'll talk about that next week. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Here.